All right, so I think we are starting and we are live. So all of our attendees will be coming in, strolling in. I know a lot of people have been excited for the entire day just to get into the last panel session. So many great sessions today. I definitely excited to go back and watch all of the on-demand videos because my 3 a.m. brain doesn't pick up as much during that time. So I will definitely be going back and watching all of the videos on demand. And all of the videos will be on the platform, and a lot of them are already available right now, and we'll have them available on the Fluid Learning platform later on by the end of the month as well. So if you missed something today, go back into the platform, check back the auditorium. You will see those webinars available for you to watch on demand. So great way for anything that you missed, definitely check that out because there have been so many great sessions today. So many great sessions. And I have like an amazing panel, you know, as the last panel. And the thing that we're going to be discussing is what does the future of condition monitoring look like? So let me introduce my panelists, and I'm going this way on my screen. So we have Dr. Ludger Quick, and he is a chemist at Siemens Energy. If you missed his session this morning, it was great. Let me pull that off one time. He had a really good session this morning. We have Dr. Marie Roucan, and she is the R&E manager at ANTARA Group. Also had a really good session a little while ago. And lastly, we have Greg Livingstone of Fluitec, and I think he had a good session a little while ago because he had a really good co-presenter. But you can be the judge of that. I am totally biased with that, but all of our presenters, all of our panelists, they did a great job today. And what we want to start talking about is the future of condition monitoring because, like everything in life, we have to evolve. So I'm going to ask our panelists to help me out a little bit and let me know, how do you think condition monitoring has evolved over the past few years? I'm going to start with Dr. Quick because I know he's seen a lot in terms of the condition monitoring field and how it has developed.
Yeah, thanks, Sanya. I think in the last few years we have a development to add more parameters to analysis. If you do it good, I've also shown this in my presentation. You add ruler and MPC to each turbine oil analysis to have a good overview what can happen with your oil and to be sure that you take the right measures. Yeah. And I think this must be improved in different regions of the world, because I always get a lot of test reports from all over the world, and unfortunately there are too much bad reports or bad analysis, not regarding the results but regarding the chosen parameters. No? And if we agree on for example, on the ASTM in service oil measurement parameters, then we can be sure to get the correct results. And there are enough practices, I think, to where it is documented what is necessary to measure.
Oh yeah, definitely.
For the back looking the
Going
past.
on to Dr. Marie, how has condition monitoring evolved in the past few years or so?
Well, from my point of view, and well, I've not been working on the oil field since a while, but I still could see some of it evolving. And there is I feel like there is kind of two ways to look at it. There is a way of understanding things, and this one has evolved a lot. Like there is many people who actually realize that it is very important to monitor the oil, to be sure that your oil is clean and you keep it good. And so the mentality has changed a lot, I feel, over the past decade about this understanding that you have to do oil analysis to be sure that what you have in your machine is good, because the degradation of oil can impact on your machine, but the machine can impact on your oil as well. So this is really important. And there is another way, which is more the technical way. And for me, this one has not so much evolved since few years. It's like as Ludger says, on the report you mostly see the same analysis, like it's most of the time it's viscosity, conductance, admittance, you know, that's always the same technique used. And for me, these techniques are kind of not enough to be able to say when your oil is actually bad. It's like when you have change in this kind of techniques, then your oil is already it's a bit too late. So few techniques like evolve, like MPC ruler has been there, but yeah, I still feel we have a lot to do on that part for me.
Oh yeah, passing it over to Greg to tell us how has condition monitoring evolved.
So I think in two ways. The first, well, two of many ways that I can think of. The first thing is I think that people now are realizing that you get what you pay for when you get free oil analysis. When your oil supplier is giving this to you for free, it's probably not worth that much. So I think people are realizing that. So that is a good thing. And people are sending more samples to independent labs. Now, the bad thing or maybe a negative trend that I've seen in the industry is that commercial oil analysis labs are getting less, and they're driving the price down and doing everything they can to provide the cheapest sample price possible. And so unfortunately, I think oil analysis has been commoditized, and that is, I heard yesterday about a lab that was offering an MPC test, 24-hour turnaround time, and I thought, oh, that's fascinating. I wonder how the ASTM procedure calls for 96 hours. So yeah. I wonder how they speed time to do that.
Oh boy!
Labs that are cutting corners to try to make their tests as cheap as possible. So I think that's a disturbing trend that I see. And I guess the final thing, I have a friend that sells oil analysis tests. And so for years, he's been saying, I'm actually in the filing cabinet business. Our customers get the sample, and unfortunately, they just put it directly in the cabinet, in the filing cabinet. So he's like, I basically am selling filing cabinets, but now everyone has gone to online dashboards and LIMS. So we have kind of taken these digital filing cabinets and put them up in the cloud. But there is at least that value. There is value in having online LIMS and cloud-based dashboards that at least allows us to better trend samples.
Mm-hmm.
And so overall, I think that is another positive trend that we're seeing.
Yeah, and like what I've seen, and just kind of tying everything back in terms of condition monitoring, a lot of times, if we were to think about 10, 20 years ago, people did not have access to the resources that they have access to now. So I think that has been one of the biggest trends that we've seen in terms of evolution. Access to resources in terms of labs, and access to resources in terms of actual analysts, and having that, not just having data, but having valuable data that they could relate to, that they can actually implement certain things within their equipment. Because that's what it's about at the end of the day. That's what we talk about in terms of condition monitoring. We need to get into the health of the actual assets. So that's one of the main things that I've seen in terms of the evolution of condition monitoring. We have more people caring about it. We have more people becoming interested in it. So you can talk to a CEO now and he's like, oh yes, I know what condition monitoring is. Or rather, he thinks he knows, but he knows that it exists. And in the past, that was not like that. So I'm glad that we could see in terms of the evolution of condition monitoring over these years. But let me ask the question, where do you think this will go in the future. So what do you think we can see in terms of, I know we have a lot, we had a panel this morning with machine learning and how that, ties back in. So I'm gonna pass it over to Dr. Quick. What do you think the future of condition monitoring looks like, given what you've seen over the past couple of years?
At first, I would say oil analysis will always, the lab analysis will always be also in the future an important part of the good maintenance practice. You cannot switch from the lab analysis completely to sensors. This is my view, because there are parameters like air release or foaming or so on, which cannot be measured by sensors, I'm sure. Maybe in 20 or 30 years, I don't know. But not now. So we need the oil analysis on a regular base. What I see and what I was asked in our company from our service business, is it possible to implement oil sensors which give you an additional possibility to keep an eye on the condition of the oil between the analysis, so that you know very fast if something changes. And therefore, in my view, it's not necessary to have all these parameters, but maybe only some of them where you see changes. Water content, particle count is established as online sensors, but it's not implemented, but you can get it. And I know that different sensors are also in development. And I would like to have to ensure good lab analysis on a regular basis, and then implement sensors to make an online monitoring, because there are also unmanned power plants which need such online sensors for the operation, for the safe operation. Yeah. And in my company, I'm asked more and more about these topics.
Oh, yeah.
In the last year. Greg also knows that. We always had we had discussions about that. Yeah, online
That's
sensors
because
in the future, but in addition with lab analysis.
That's because you're the expert, Ludger. You're the expert. That's why they're coming to you. So I'm gonna jump over to Dr. Marie. What do you think we can expect to see in the future?
Well, I kind of agree with Ludger, because I think sensor is great, and we are going to go more and more into sensors, but we can't remove the lab analysis. And as he said, there is some analysis who can't be put as a sensors, but there is also not every company are able to afford sensors. And so you have sensors. So the cheapest one will give you results every, I don't know, one hour. Or like they will monitor every 1 hour, 10 hours, and then the most expensive one will monitor every minute, even like every seconds. But the problem is not every company can afford this kind of sensor. So I think we will have to stick to the lab monitoring. But I agree that we should really implement a better monitoring, like more often, to be able to react quickly on if there is a problem, and to anticipate every problem which can happen. But definitely I don't see the lab monitoring leaving, but I can see more sensors like coming into, especially if you want to track humidity or viscosity or all these kind of things. It's going to be more easy to track it with the sensor, like to monitor it all the time.
Okay, that's a very interesting, because I know we will see that kind of balance, and having the balance is very important, because that, I always prefer humans are involved, but that's just me. I'm gonna pass it over to Greg now. What do you see for the future of condition monitoring?
So I do think it's hard to talk about the future condition monitoring without talking about sensors.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, sensors have been around for ages. So the first question is, why don't we see widespread adoption of sensors? Like 30 years we've had sensors. I bought my first particle counter in the mid-90s, online particle counter. So why isn't this on every plant? And I think one of the reasons is that, you know, a lot of sensors, it's very hard to tie that data to actually anything that happens in a lab. So they're not actually replacing any lab tests. And so a dielectric sensor, for example, I mean, it's not really telling you that much. And so I think there's been people haven't really found the value in them yet. Where I see this changing is that I think we're going to have much higher resolution coming out of our sensors so that we actually can get laboratory quality data for some parameters in oil analysis. And I think when that happens, the value is going to be much higher for end users, and I see that as maybe the catalyst that will you know, kind of move us from really super early adopters that are using sensors to more of the mainstream. So I think that's one thing. And just to touch on AI and machine learning, you know, there have been papers written about tying vibration and oil analysis together for years. In the mid 80s, Brian Johnson from Palo Verde wrote a paper on vibration and oil analysis, but it's really seldom done. And I think with machine learning and the power of computing, this is going to be much easier now. So oil analysis is always its own kind of standalone thing that's separated from the other condition monitoring technologies. So I do see more integration with oil analysis and all the other condition monitoring technologies. So.
Yeah, and I think I always like to bring it back to something that we can all relate to. It's just like going to the doctor. You don't just go for a blood test. You may go for a blood test, a CT scan, all of these other things. So it kind of depends on what you're trying to establish. And that's the main thing with condition monitoring. You need to know what you're looking for. What is it? What are the conditions that you want to have in place? Is it that you're checking for varnish? Is it that you're checking for wear particles? What are your conditions before you put those parameters in place? Because that's important. If you're designing any system, you need to know what you're looking for. And sometimes we miss the boat on that, and we just hear condition monitoring, and we're like, yay, condition monitoring. But we forget to align it back to what it is that we want to have, assessed with our equipment. And I know we have another question coming in here. And they say, in your opinion, what are the challenges that we could face with condition monitoring technologies in the future? And I think what he's trying to get at is, what issues we can have? Because I know we could have a very lengthy discussion on this one. So I'm going down to Dr. Ludger first. What sort of challenges do you think we can have with the way condition monitoring is going to be in the future? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I haven't got the first part of your sentence of your question.
Oh, that's on me. What sort of challenges do you think condition monitoring technologies can face in the future?
Is it in the chat? Then I can read it.
Yes. I'm gonna drop it over to Dr. Marie in the meantime. What sort of challenges do you think we'll have with condition monitoring?
Maybe Greg can take over.
Yeah.
Well, I can let Greg answer that question if I don't want to.
No, you go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, this is a very good question. I think maybe one of the challenge I could see is maybe implementing all this condition monitoring. If we go for sensor and for IA, I guess people will maybe be reluctant at the beginning, about that. Like, we used to do all this in latte, and as you said, you like the human behind all the reports and everything. And so if we go for something more monitoring and for more digital, well, then it might be an issue that people could trust the things. And then you have all the parts, the technologic part, like we have to be sure that it's gonna work. So we'll have all the technical support behind it, which might be a big things to put in place.
Oh yeah. I'm passing it over to Greg. What sort of
So
challenges you think?
I have a pretty simple answer to this. So I think the challenges that we will have in the future are the same challenges that we've had in the past and that we have today. People that are involved in the condition monitoring space, I think we can always do a better job of justifying and showing the value proposition of our program. Anybody that is running an oil analysis program at a plant, they should be identifying whenever there's you've made a save, you've identified a potential failure, you've prevented that piece of equipment from failing, quantifying that and justifying and showing to management that there is significant value with condition monitoring. It's one of the highest ROIs that you can possibly make in a plant to implement.
Oh,
and many times we see people running the cheapest analysis program, not running the right test for the right pieces of machinery. So I think the biggest challenge that we will have is the biggest one that we have right now is to make sure that we are all justifying and just showing the value of our condition monitoring programs.
No, I found it. I was in the chat, not in the questions.
Oh.
Sorry. The challenges, yes.
Okay.
No. The challenges, I think, if we have sensors and if we have more analysis and we also have the results earlier and we have to react faster. This is one point. Yeah, and we have high availability requirements for our power plants, and so if there are deviations, we have to have solutions in the background to implement directly. No? It's not the case that we can discuss for weeks what we do now. Yeah, we should have solutions directly on the start. And as you know, Greg, from your company, sometimes it's required to bring some stuff in 2 days to a power plant or so to clean up a device. Yeah, this is required, and this is the challenge I think in the future. Maybe it was also before, but not with this high pressure, I think.
Oh yeah.
Very
That's
good point.
a really good answer. Good point there, Ludger. And now I'm going back to
prepare action plans, and we must prepare where we get this stuff which we need for oil conditioning, for example, and our customers have to know that it is available and where it is available.
Definitely. So now we have another question coming in. Is it feasible to get an online way to monitor oil aeration or air content in the future? And is there any sort of research on this topic? Because I know we mentioned before that there are certain sensors that may not be able to capture what we get in the lab. So, Ludger, what are your thoughts on that? Is it feasible to have something so that we have some sort of online monitoring of aeration or air contents in our oil?
I don't think so. It's so easy because I know about R&D work, research work from the late 80s where they tried to measure it over the density in the oil tank. But you know there's a lot of oil flowing and agitation, and if you want to measure the density in this oil tank in different positions, it's not so easy to do so. Yeah, and I'm not so sure if there is a sensor for air release value. It's not, in my view, it's not possible to do it online. Maybe indirectly, but not so easy.
All right. Passing it over to Marie. What are your thoughts on that?
This is a very good question, and honestly, I don't think I have enough background about this analysis to be able to answer this. Is it feasible to get an online way to monitor oil aeration and air contents? I guess, well, I don't know if there has been publication or like research on it, but there is non-method to analyze the air, like for example by GC or things like that. So you can analyze components in the air. I guess maybe that would be like a way, you know, to, for example, you monitor something in the air, and depending on the concentration you have inside your hole, then it corresponds to concentration of air you have in your oil. I don't know. I mean, I'm not very familiar with techniques, so this is just like a silly idea in the back of my head.
No, that's how everything starts, you know, everything starts with an idea. So passing it over to you, Greg, what do you think about it?
So there's two types of air. There's dissolved air or free air. You may have air bubbles, and particle counters. You do have some online particle counters now that can characterize the shape of the particle. And so if it's a round, perfectly spherical particle that's floating through, there's a very reasonable chance that it's an air bubble or a water bubble. So you can have online particle counters that have the ability to detect some types of free air, but getting to dissolved air or understanding air release properties and measuring that, you're not going to have a test, I think, that is duplicating ASTM 3427 and duplicating the air release test. But I think if the air release properties of an oil are deteriorating, that's probably a lagging factor. There's probably other things that are causing the oil to degrade. And those things, I think you will be able to detect. So sometimes of thermal degradation, oxidation, certain additive components, base oil degradation, all of these things, actually, I think you can monitor online and then loosely correlate that to air release.
Yeah, and I know Andy Latinos, I'm pronouncing that wrong. That's my 3 AM brain. Andy Lantos is actually, he mentioned this stuff about the particle counters and the bubbles. So thank you for the jumping on that one, Andy. Now
Nice
I
to see you,
know,
Andy.
yeah, thank you for joining us. So a lot of times people are asking some stuff about what sort of ROI are we targeting for like future of condition monitoring? Like, are we going to try to decrease your ROI or in terms of in the future? What do you think that can look like? And I think that kind of depends on how much you can invest to start off with, in terms of investing in your condition monitoring program. Because a lot of times when you go to some of these plants and some of these institutions, they don't get a lot of budget for condition monitoring unless they can prove that having a good condition monitoring program will actually help them to increase, you know, profitability, those sort of things. So do you think that there is a way that we can help our audience to, you know, be able to sell ROI in terms of condition monitoring? I'm gonna go with you on that one, Greg, because it links back to what we talked about in terms of the value that condition monitoring can bring.
So let me just share a common story that I hear. People that set up oil management program. If everything is running really, really, really well in your plant, you don't have a lot of results that come back from the lab that are critical. And so I've heard of oil analysis programs literally being canceled because management says, everything is fine. Why are we even bothering wasting money sending samples to the lab? Everything's fine. Well, everything is fine because you're running the right samples and you have the right ways of managing your program. It's like evidence that you're in fact doing a really, really good job. And so I think making sure you can show your ROI, just not on saves, but also actually when everything is fully optimized, you have a great program and can properly predict things. You don't have critical alarms coming through on a regular basis. Being able to quantify that also in your ROI calculation, I think is important.
I think that's very important. Marie, any thoughts on that one?
Could you just give me the question again, because
It was a random question.
okay.
How can you get condition monitoring to actually show your return on investments for different plants or anything like that? How do you convince them that they should be doing condition monitoring?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't get the.
That's okay.
I guess, well, condition monitoring will help you to prevent any damage on, I mean, any degradation of your oil, and of course, any damage on your machine. I mean, as I said at the beginning, I said like it's the degradation of your oil impact your machine, and your machine impact your oil, and you know, like it's all a vicious cycle like that. And I guess if you monitor your oil often enough, then you're gonna avoid or see soon enough what can go wrong and when you should change either the oil or either the machinery or whatever. So I guess if you monitor enough, then you will have less risk to break something.
Oh, yes, definitely. On to you, Dr. Quick, as we wrap up today.
Yes, it's always if there's trouble in a power plant because of the oil filling, then you know how much money they have to solve the problem. This is my I know that because often they call me then, and then I have to find a solution very fast, and then money does not spend a role because, as you know, maybe a power plant outage, unplanned outage costs more than $1 million, maybe per day or week or in this region. Depends on the on the size, and if they would have spent it before, predictive maintenance is a word. There wouldn't have been this outage, this unplanned outage.
Yep, and we can pull that back to the human body. If you don't go for those regular checkups, you don't want to get a heart attack. So check on that cholesterol. Always a good idea to keep those checks and do those checks, because then you see the value of it. You don't wait until you have the heart attack, then to do the checks, right? So I am just gonna wrap up our panel for today. Thank you all so much for joining us, for sharing your knowledge with us. Amazing to be on this particular panel with Greg, Marie, and Ludger, having this final wrap up in terms of condition monitoring. We had such an amazing day today. So I just want to give a huge shout out to you all. Shout out to our sponsors as well, and to our attendees, because I know we've had quite some competition on the leaderboard. I'm just going to share my screen very quickly, and we actually have a tie for first place. So that's interesting. I know that our LRVSs are so competitive. They're such great people. So we have Bruno and Kevin tying for first place. Dugard coming in. I'm just going according to the letters, because I'm gonna get mixed up so much, because third and fourth are also actually, we have a four-way tie for first place.
Four-way tie. Amazing.
A four-way tie. This is the first time in history. You guys are very competitive. Well done. It means you attended everything. So Bruno, Kevin, Dugard, and Rochelle, you all are our first place winners. And our
LRVS
top 10
heroes.
LRVS heroes. Our top 10 would be Islam. We have Breno coming in, Carlos, Danraj, Ewelina, and Ivan. These are our top 10 winners. First place goes to 4 different people at the same amount of points. That's absolutely amazing. Thank you all so much for attending LRVS, for getting up early with us, because I know I was up at 3 a.m. So not fully functional, but I was up at 3 a.m. this morning to help you all start off. We had such a great day with everybody. Thank you for participating in all of the different sessions. Every session would be available on demand on the platform within the next 5 minutes or so. And by the end of the month, we'll have them available on the Fluid Learning platform, and you can go back in, you can listen to them cancel your Netflix subscription because you're going to be watching just these videos only. So we had a great day with you all. Thank you so much. And stay tuned for LRVS and what we're doing next year.
I just want to also say, Sonia, you are amazing. This is the third event that you have put on, and you have done an unbelievable job. So thank you very much. And so I think a couple of people said thanks to me. I don't get any credit here, but Josh and our team gets a lot of credit. But Sonia, you were just phenomenal. So thank you. We're really indebted to you for this.
Yes, and definitely to all of our speakers and all of our presenters. You all bring all of the knowledge. And to our attendees, our hardcore LRVSers, you all make the event. So thank you. And our moderators, yes. Let me not forget our moderators because they did a great job. Without them, sessions would not have started. So very grateful for them and for getting everything sorted and running it smoothly today. So we are all looking forward to next year. And we will be seeing you soon. Thank you all so much for sharing your day with us. And we will talk soon. Stay on the lookout for stuff at LRVS. Bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.